Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about coronavirus threat response in public. I've done a couple of prior videos where I was talking about self-defense inside your home. Well, the significance here is that it's in public. When we're talking about self-defense inside a home, you're familiar with your surroundings. You know where the doorways are. You know who's supposed to be in your house, who's not supposed to be in your house. You have the opportunity to plan in advance how you would respond to a home invasion. Okay, when we're talking about self-defense in public, you don't know where it's going to happen. You don't know how many people are going to be involved. So there's a lot of unknown variables. Okay. Now, the significance of saying coronavirus, instead of just saying just regular, everyday, self-defense outside your home, is, basically because of the coronavirus, we're seeing that there's shortages of supplies, which means that there's an increased chance of rioting, of looting. So, and we're also getting reports that police in some areas are not responding to some calls for help. Right now, it's for calls for where they're calling in theft or something basically low-level crimes. During Hurricane Katrina, we saw that the police were not responding to anything. In fact, the police left the area, and the people were left on their own. Basically, the police went home to take care of their own families and moved them out of the area. So that's the reason why I mentioned coronavirus here. You could pretty much substitute natural disaster or basically any large scale emergency where police are not likely to respond at least immediately. Okay, because we can expect that if something happens on just any regular ordinary day and you call the police for help, they were not going to get there as fast as you wanted to, but they'll get there. Okay. In a situation like you had with Hurricane Katrina, they just weren't showing up. So that's why I put the coronavirus, in the title. So when we're talking about self-defense outside of your home, the first thing is be alert and have enough gun. So how much gun? I mean, on a regular, ordinary day where I really don't expect to have a problem, yeah, I carry a pocket pistol with 6 rounds. But if I know that there's a higher potential for being robbed or for rioting or for looting to happen, I'm not carrying a 6-round pocket pistol. I'm carrying a Glock 17, 17-round magazine, a couple of extra magazines, and I might even have a rifle in the trunk of in the back of the truck somewhere. So basically, depending on the on the threat level, right? You want to have enough gun for any potential problems that you may encounter. So be alert. Listen to the news. Get information as far as what is going on, so you can make a decision as to how much gun you need to carry, and also wherever you're going, be alert. Situational awareness. Don't just put earplugs on and look at the ground when you're walking. Look around you and see what who the people are and what they're doing. Okay. Okay. So next, travel in groups. Okay. Again, on a normal everyday type of situation where threat level is really low, I really don't think much about traveling in groups. However, if the threat level increases slightly, I might think of at least traveling, let's say with my wife, for example. Not even if she's armed, right? Not necessarily that she's armed, just so that I have a second pair of eyes. Okay, and that's again, really minimal increase in the threat level. If, however, I see that there's a significant increase in the threat level, I might say, okay, I might get a couple of my neighbors together, and if we need to go out, to get supplies or something, we go out in a group and we have a plan of how we're going to cover each other. So if there is a significant increase in the threat level, you want to travel in groups that you can depend on, okay, who are also armed and also trained and that you can depend on, okay. The next thing you want to think about is position. Okay, so let's say you're in a situation, you want to go get supplies or something, and something is happening. Okay, and again, I'm keeping this very broad because there's lots of different ways that this can unfold, different places. Well, and again, it might just be a situation where you just have two people arguing, okay? And again, thinking about positioning, it might just be that, hey, you want to get out of there, just keep moving, get into the store to go buy whatever you want to buy. Don't sit there and just looking at two people arguing with each other. And if you see that the situation is escalating, maybe you need to think about moving to a position where you can get behind cover if you need to. Not necessarily get behind cover, but at least, move, as you're moving through a parking lot, let's say, or if you're moving down the road or whatever, move closer to the trees or something. Position yourself so that if you need to get to cover, you can get to cover. And if you're with a group and you see that the threat level is escalating, again, start thinking about how you guys are going to disperse so that, you're not all bunched up together, so that you're in a position where you can potentially provide cover fire for each other and overlapping, lines of fire. So these are some things for you guys to think about. Okay, so think about positioning yourself and think about positioning your group depending on what the threat level is. Okay, the other thing that you got to think about, which a lot of people often don't think about when they're talking about a self-defense plan, is your kids or the kids of other people in your group or other kids that might be in the area. A lot of times when people train, they're thinking about how they're going to respond to a threat. They're not thinking about, hey, if something happens, right? If you see, let's say gunfire or something is erupting in a parking lot, you might be in the middle of a situation where you have one kid here, the other kid over there, they're playing hide and seek or something. You're trying to get them together, and they're just not cooperating with you because they don't think that, they think it's all the game. That's a very realistic situation. So that's going to throw a monkey wrench into any self-defense plan. So that's something you have to think about as far as positioning, getting your kids into a position where you can, keep them safe, okay? And of course, the kids get priority, and kids are a very big uncertainty. You don't know if they're going to listen to you or not going to listen to you, but that has to be part of the plan, okay? The next thing I want to talk about is responding, okay? So let's say something's happening, right, and a response is necessary. Okay, now the response again might just be getting out of there, moving to cover, or it might be that you need to actually defend yourself. You might need to return fire. The first thing that you want to consider is expectations versus reality. Okay, because a lot of people think they train even people that train regularly, you train a certain way, but there's certain, in any training that you do, there's certain, basically there's a setup. You're training to respond to a certain way under certain conditions, okay? And you might be in a situation where the conditions are not what you expected. And, chief of that is children. Your kids might be, you might have been training not to have your kids there, and your kids are now there. When I train, one of the things I do is I train to shoot one-handed with both a pistol and also with an AR-15. I shoot, shooting one-handed with an AR-15 is possible, and you can get quite good at it. This way you can hold your kids back or keep them on the ground while you're returning fire if that's what you need to do. So let me talk a little bit more about expectations versus reality. Over the years, I've taken many classes, and in those classes, I've had lots of combat veterans. Now, I'm not talking about me teaching classes. I'm talking about me taking classes as a student. So in a lot of these classes, I've had combat veterans. I've had police veterans. The instructors in many cases were veterans themselves and police. And usually, it's very typical that, and this happens in all the classes that I've taken. There'll be one guy or a few guys there. They're like, yeah, if this happens, I know exactly what I'm going to do. I've done it a million times before. I was in Afghanistan or I was in Iraq. And then there was one class that I was in, and somebody said something that really kind of stuck in my head. He goes, yeah, okay, so, let's talk about that particular situation that you were in and how you responded like clockwork. Can you, how do you think you would have responded if your kids were there? Okay. And then the guy kind of paused for a second. Okay. Because here's the thing. You take any any type of dangerous situation, and then you take your kids and you put them right next to you, and all of a sudden your mind is going to pause a little bit. Okay, you're not going to respond like clockwork. So again, that's something that you have to consider. Now, expectations versus reality. One of the things that you have to get comfortable with is that if something is happening and you don't respond the way that you expect to, as soon as you realize that, pick up the pieces and go do what you got to do. And what I mean for that, for example, you see two guys, shooting at each other. Okay, you know that you're instantly supposed to get behind cover. Okay, and you don't. You just sit there out in the open and you're just staring at them because you can't believe this is happening. Okay, all of a sudden you realize that, crap, I should be behind cover, not just sitting here looking at them. Okay, fine. You realize the mistake that you did. Get yourself behind cover, okay, or get yourself out of the area if you can. So once you make a mistake and you realize that, don't sit there and mentally beat yourself up. Do what you have to do. Correct the mistake and move on. So, and this is something else that I've learned from hearing combat veterans just share their war stories, basically. In a lot of the classes that I've taken. One of the things that I have learned is that this is someplace where they initially surprise themselves. They don't always respond to the same thing the same way. So, and it might be a very similar situation. It's just like on one day, the heads was screwed on straight, or every other day the head's screwed on straight. And then there was one particular day where something very similar happened, and all of a sudden they're not responding the way they've always responded, or the way they've been trained to respond. And all of a sudden they're kind of like shocked. It's like, wait, why am I behind the ball here? Now, one of the nice things about when you're in a combat unit, if one or two people make a mistake, you have the other people in the unit to kind of help you out. If they need to, knock you over the head and get you behind cover, they'll do it for you. Whereas if you're by yourself and you make that kind of mistake, it's kind of up to you to snap yourself out of it. Or if you're in a group, again, this is why I say travel in groups. If you make a mistake, other people in your group can help you out. Okay, so that's important as far as response. If you don't respond the way that you think that you should respond, or the way you've been training that you should respond, once you realize the mistake that you've made, correct it and move on. Don't get stuck on it. Okay, so that's an important thing. As far as responding, take cover. Okay, and again, sometimes you may get the opportunity to take cover before the shooting happens. Sometimes you may you may not realize what's going on, and then you end up having to take cover after the shooting has already started. So as soon as you realize what's happening, get to cover. Okay. All right. So you get to cover. You respond, right? Or maybe you don't have to respond. Maybe it's just two people doing their own thing out there, and you don't even know who's the good guy and who's the bad guy. So you just stay behind cover. And that makes sense if you don't know who the good guy and who the bad guy is. But if you do need to defend yourself, okay, after you shoot from behind cover, you do your scan and assess to see if there's any other immediate threats. But when you do that, cover your gun. Okay, so you're like bang, bang, bang. Okay, cover your gun, look around, and then reholster as soon as possible. Don't sit there waving the gun all over the place, because what's going to happen is other people that are on the scene or coming to the scene, they're not going to know who you are. They just know that there's been a shooting. There's a shooting that just happened. There's a couple of bodies out there. And they may just assume that you're the bad guy. So one of the things that I drill in my training sessions, after you respond to a threat, cover the gun up, right? Do your scan and assess, and then reholster immediately. Okay, and all that should be happening behind cover. So even if you had to respond out in the open because something happened that fast that you couldn't get to cover, okay, get yourself to cover. Cover your gun up, get the cover, then scan and assess while you're covering your gun up, and then reholster as soon as possible. Okay, and the next thing is call for help. Okay, and that maybe you can call the police. Better yet, if you have somebody else in your group, they can call for help, or you may not be able to actually call the police. Calling for help might just be a matter of calling, making contact with your buddies and figuring out how you guys are going to get out of there. Come up with an exit plan. Okay. So next thing I want to talk about is staying alert. So something happens, you respond to it, or maybe you don't respond to it. Maybe you just stay behind cover. After it seems like it's over, stay alert, okay, and observe people. See what they're doing. For example, observe the movement of people. If you see everybody taking cover and then you got one guy walking down, holding a gun like he's the Terminator, like he doesn't care, there's a good chance that that might be a bad guy, okay? So observe movement, observe gun handling, okay? If you see people with guns, again, you don't know who's a good guy, who's a bad guy. See how they're handling their guns. Are they keeping them in a safe direction, or are they just like pointing them all over the place like they don't care? If you see that they're handling the guns safely, right, like pointing them down or pointing it up, whatever. If you see that they're keeping the guns pointed in the safe direction, if you see that their finger is off the trigger straight like this, that's an indication that they've received training. Seeing a straight finger on a gun means that they're concerned about not shooting somebody that doesn't need to be shot. So that's probably a good guy. Okay, so that's something that you guys want to be very aware of. Watch the gun handling of people in a situation where you may not know exactly what's going on. Okay, watch the interactions amongst people. How they're interacting with each other. That may also give you important information that might be useful to you. As far as who the good guys are, who the bad guys are. Which is a better exit. Because if you see certain people interacting in a hostile way in one direction, but not in the other direction, maybe you can get out of there through the other direction. Okay, and watch your surroundings as far as other people coming into the area who may not even know what happened. Okay, so let's say you're behind cover. Let's say you're behind a garbage can or something, whatever. You're behind, you got concealment behind a garbage can, and all of a sudden you see a car coming into the area who has no idea what happened. All of a sudden they see what happened and they decide they're going to get out of there as fast as possible. They floor the pedal of the car, and the car's coming at you. They don't, with the intention of just knocking the garbage can out of the way, not realizing that you are behind that garbage can, using it as concealment. So. Again, you want to be aware of what's happening. So pay attention to your surroundings and how they might be changing. Other thing I'm gonna add the legal aspect of this. Okay, in a normal everyday type of self-defense situation, we can expect that even though the police might not get there quickly enough, they're gonna get there eventually. And there's going to have to be a legal accounting. And what that basically means is that you keep your mouth shut and you get a lawyer. You can give a brief description in the terms of listen, he tried to kill me. I had to defend myself, and now I need to talk to my lawyer. So you may want to give a very general description so that they know. Another thing that you can say, hey, listen. I had to defend myself because he tried to hurt me. I really can't give you any details right now until I talk to my lawyer. There's a bunch of people over there that maybe they can help you out and give you some more details. Okay, so that's another way that you might be able to deal with that type of situation. Now you also may have a situation where the legal accounting is not immediate. Maybe it's a Hurricane Katrina type of situation where the police have left the area and. You're not going to have to deal with the legal system for a couple of weeks or maybe a month or two. But the point is that you will have to give a legal accounting at some point. So one of the things that might be a good idea is get a written statement, make a written statement yourself, get a written statement from other people in your group so that you can submit it to your lawyer. Okay, not give it to the cops, but give it to your lawyer, which he may decide to use or not use. But the point is you're kind of documenting it so that you don't forget certain things. Okay, so that's something that you may want to consider. So there's some thoughts and some ideas as far as a response to a threat in public in the coronavirus environment. And again, by coronavirus I mean is, we're talking about a widespread like natural disaster or in general a situation where the police are not responding the way or as quickly as they normally do. So that's what the significance of coronavirus is in this video. If you guys got any questions, comments, feedback, put in the comment section. If you're not a member of the channel, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys soon.